All right, let's talk about Tetris, but not just the game. We're going to get into the real story behind it. And trust me, it's a wild ride. We're talking genius, greed, Cold War politics, all packed into those simple little falling blocks. So yeah, let's dive right in. I mean, everybody knows Tetris, right? You've played it, I've played it. It's sold hundreds of millions of copies on like every device imaginable. It is, without a doubt, the king of puzzle games. And there's this beautiful simplicity to it, isn't there? It's all about making neat, orderly lines out of total chaos. But here's the crazy part. What if the story of how we got the game was the complete opposite? I mean, pure, absolute chaos. We're talking a full-on Cold War thriller. The KGB is involved. There's this shady media tycoon. It's a battle between superpowers, but instead of missiles, they're fighting over video game cartridges. Seriously. Okay, so to get this whole story, we have to go back, way back, deep inside the Soviet Union. This is where a single brilliant programmer cooked up something that would change the world. And he did it on a computer that honestly had no business running a game at all. So, meet the man himself, Alexei Pajitnov. He's a computer programmer at the Moscow Academy of Sciences back in the 80s. And you gotta understand, he wasn't in it for the money. I mean, he couldn't be. In the Soviet system, researchers like him didn't get to profit from what they made. For him, it was all about his passion. He just loved puzzles. And he used these big, clunky, state-owned computers to play around with them. And when I say clunky computers, I mean it. Check this out. The machine he was using, the Electronica 60, it was a piece of junk, even back then. It had zero graphics, the screen could only show text. So how do you make a game with falling blocks? Well, Pajitnov had to get creative. He literally used pairs of text characters, like two square brackets pushed together, to represent the blocks. These insane limitations are actually what forced the game's simple, iconic look. It's creativity born from scarcity. So his first idea was actually based on this puzzle he loved as a kid called Pentominoes. It has 12 different shapes, each made of 5 squares. But he figured out pretty fast that that's just too much, too complicated for the computer, and way too confusing for a person trying to play in real time. So he made this genius decision to simplify. Instead of 5 squares, why not 4? That's tetra. That decision gave us Tetraminos. It cut the number of shapes down to just 7, those 7 perfect, iconic shapes we all know. And right there, in that simplification, that's where he struck gold. He smashed Tetra together with tennis, his favorite sport, and boom, Tetris was born. And man, it was an instant hit. His coworkers at the Academy were completely hooked. Pretty soon, this 16-year-old kid, a total prodigy, ports it to the IBM PC. And from there, it just exploded. People were passing it around on floppy disks all over Moscow, all through the Eastern Bloc. It became this underground sensation, spreading like wildfire. And this is where the story goes from a cool invention to an absolute mess. Because eventually, the game slips through the Iron Curtain. The West gets a look, and it sets off one of the nastiest, most complicated legal brawls you've ever seen in the history of entertainment. It's a total free-for-all. Okay, so let's try to unravel this thing. It all kicks off in '86. This software salesman, Robert Stein, he finds Tetris in Hungary. And without actually getting the real rights, he just starts selling them, based on nothing more than a telex message. Then, in '88, our next key player shows up, Hank Rogers. He's a game publisher. He sees Tetris at a trade show, and he immediately knows this is it. This is a gold mine. And before you know it, versions are being sold by companies owned by this huge media mogul, Robert Maxwell. So you've got all these people making deals based on nothing. It's a complete house of cards, just ready to fall over. This chart right here, it perfectly shows you what a tangled knot this whole thing was. You've got Elorg, the Soviet state agency, who in reality owned all the rights. Simple, right? No. Then you have Robert Stein, who's convinced he owns the PC rights. Then you have Robert Maxwell's empire, thinking they've got PC and console rights, which they bought from Stein. And then way down at the end of this messy chain is Hank Rogers, who thinks he has the Japanese console rights that he bought from Maxwell. See the problem? Everyone thinks they've got a valid piece of the pie, but nobody actually knows who owns the recipe. So of course, this whole mess has to come to a head. And it does. In Moscow, 1989. All these guys descend on the city to sort it out. It's basically a high-stakes poker game for the future of Tetris, and it's all happening during the very last, very tense moments of the Cold War. The pressure is on. And then you've got Hank Rogers, who does something unbelievably bold. He flies into Moscow on a tourist visa, no official invite, no nothing. A hugely risky move. And he knew it. This quote from him says it all. He had no idea if he was going to end up in a gulag. He's walking into this secretive, paranoid state where one wrong step could mean disaster. He literally saw it as an adventure game where a wrong turn could land you in a pit of lava. That's guts.
And why was he taking such a huge risk? Because the stakes were massive. Rogers had bet everything, and I mean everything, including his in-laws' property, on getting the rights for a brand new little handheld device that Nintendo was about to release, the Game Boy. He knew that Tetris wasn't just another game for the Game Boy. No, it was the game, the killer app, the one thing that would make that little gray brick an absolute must-have all over the world.
So how did he pull it off? How did this one guy beat out a media empire? Well, it was a masterclass in strategy. First, and this is key, he was honest. He just walks in and shows the Soviets a copy of a Japanese Tetris cartridge. By doing that, he accidentally reveals that his competitors have been selling console rights they never, ever owned. Oops. Second, the Soviets get clever. They trick Robert Stein into signing a new contract that defines a computer in a very specific way, a way that just happens to exclude video game consoles. And then, the real game changer, friendship. Rogers actually made a real connection with Pajitnov. They were just two game designers geeking out. That trust, that human element, that's what sealed the deal and let Nintendo snatch the prize right from under everyone's noses. So, with all that legal chaos finally sorted out, the floodgates opened. The stage was now set for Tetris to absolutely take over the world. And its legacy, well, it goes way beyond just being a fun game. It actually gets into the science of how our brains work. Just look at this number for a second. 35 million plus. That's how many Game Boys Nintendo sold that came with a copy of Tetris right in the box. That partnership wasn't just a success, it was astronomical. It made the Game Boy a legend, and it made Tetris a household name forever. But, behind all this corporate warfare, the most important thing that happened was a simple friendship. You have to remember, Pajitnov was basically isolated behind the Iron Curtain. For him to meet another guy who just got game design, it was a huge deal. It was Rogers' honesty, his genuine passion, that sliced right through all that Cold War paranoia. And that was the start of a friendship that would last a lifetime. And really, that friendship became the bedrock of the entire Tetris business. I love this quote from Rogers. He says, "Their handshake was stronger than any contract ever written." Think about that. After all the backstabbing and legal chaos, their entire partnership was built on simple trust and respect. It's the total opposite of how the whole story started. And this is the part of the story that just feels so right. The original deal the Soviets made was for 10 years. When that expired in 1996, the rights to Tetris finally went back to the guy who invented it. Pajitnov and Rogers teamed up, formed the Tetris company, and Alexei, at long last, got the recognition and the financial reward for his incredible creation, as it should be. But the story doesn't even stop there. The game's effect on people was so powerful that it actually got its own psychological term, the Tetris effect. And if you've ever played a lot of Tetris, you know exactly what this is. It's when you close your eyes to go to sleep and you can still see the little blocks falling. Or you're driving down the street and you start mentally rearranging the cars to fit together perfectly. It literally rewires your brain for a bit. And this is where it gets really wild. Scientists started studying this and found that playing Tetris has some unbelievable benefits. I mean, actual therapeutic benefits. We're talking it can make your brain run more efficiently, using less energy. Long-term play can actually make parts of your brain's cortex thicker. And get this is the most amazing one. It can help with trauma. Studies have shown that playing Tetris right after a traumatic event can reduce the intrusive flashbacks that come with PTSD. It works by basically tying up the visual part of your brain so it can't form those traumatic memories as strong. So that brings us full circle, doesn't it? The story of Tetris is about this simple, perfect idea that created order out of complete corporate and political chaos. And now, the science is telling us that the game itself might do the exact same thing, but for our minds. So here's a thought to leave you with. Could it be that this simple game, born from severe limitations in a Soviet lab, is the perfect tool for creating order, not just on a screen, but inside our own head?